Hello there ladies and gentlemen, I'm Paul TX141 Walsh, welcoming you to an all new World of Warships gameplay today on our channel. In this episode we're setting sail in the Tier 7 Premium German Battlecruiser known as the Scharnhorst in a Tier 7 domination game on the map New Dawn. The purpose of today's gameplay is to analyse on a psychological aspect the effect that being the top tier battleship can have on your team. To provide the context, when I'm the bottom tier ship in a game, I normally look towards my top tier battleships to understand what they intend to do in a given match and, as a result, revolve my strategy around their game plan. But one of my gripes as an individual player is when it appears as though the top tier battleships have no idea what they're doing. Now this is not a judgment of players, but let me explain. They appear to be reliant on knowing what the bottom tier ships in the team are doing, and they will influence their game plan around that. I personally feel that the influence needs to be the other way around. The top tiers influence what the bottom tiers do. Because at the end of the day, the top tiers have the greater overall capabilities and firepower, whatnot, etc. Again, each to their own, you may have a different opinion than me. But putting the shoe onto the other foot, as a result, I personally feel it's an obligation of me as the top tier battlecruiser to provide that drive and that vision for the team. Now I'm not going to demand anything of anyone in particular. I've told my team already in the chat I'm going towards Alpha, any support would be appreciated, but I'm not expecting a plethora of ships to come this way. I'm very grateful, however, the two destroyers off to my starboard side, the Farragut and Mizuki, are both heading this way, however, because we can help each other out. They can provide me with a counter to enemy destroyers spotted, I can take on the cruisers and battleships spotted. And a bit of game sense here. I've got a landmass coming off my starboard side which will cover me from any potential spotting off to my east with my 15.2 km detectability. I can only get spotted from the direct north or northeast avenue coming into objective Alpha. And sure enough, I'll be briefly spotted now. And that tells me that it's got to be the enemy's destroyers heading this way. I can start to angle for that as a result. And you'll note that I'm holding a 45-degree angle from the potential spotting angle, so that way if torpedoes do come my way, I'm less likely to take a full set and only one or two or dodge them completely, if I manage my speed and rudder accordingly. The T-22 is spotted soon after, and they're putting up a smoke screen, and we're going to fire towards them just to encourage them to reverse into their smoke screen a little bit faster than they perhaps expected, as we became briefly unspotted as they got concealed in their smoke. But now I'm going to let my destroyers take out that T-22 at their leisure. In the meantime, we'll turn our guns towards the enemy cruisers, as our 11-inch armour-piercing shells from our 3 triple batteries mounted in the ABX configuration can cause havoc to enemy cruisers with 7,600 damage per citadel hit on armour-piercing. Opening fire here on the Marblehead, we'll see the results. A very nice 16,500 damage opening salvo on the enemy ship, that'll put them out of the game pretty much. And we are set on fire by the T-22, but it's no bother, we'll engage our hill very shortly. In the meantime, we push in towards objective Alpha because I'm already looking at the minimap and noticing the team seems to be forming a bit of a line, whereby we're all sailing towards the northwestern corner, and we, at the tip of the spear alongside our friendly destroyers here and our Milbertin, we need to expand our fleet just before it starts to contract and cluster into a ball, so that way the enemy team can't encircle us over the duration of the match. But at the same time, by being in this objective, I'm going to free up our destroyers a lot faster than them capturing it themselves. Because of course with the 60-second capture timer, a minute is a long time in a 20-minute match. That's 1/20 of your potential game time, and if you're reset, it can expand. So instead, taking that down to half a minute between us makes life a little bit easier as we finish off capturing and we open fire on the Phoenix for a second time, having used the torpedo lean indicator to tell us that they're in full reverse. Something I need to do more of in this ship, as we take off 11,000 of their health. And for reference, you do get 2 triple sets of torpedo tubes, one to each side of the ship. They're quite vulnerable and you'll typically find they do get broken every so often, as we did see earlier. But, continuing our fight on the enemy Phoenix, you'll note that we're also angled towards the Iron Duke to try and use our 350mm of armour belt on our broadside to deflect any armour piercing if they turn their attention towards us. But they seem more engrossed on taking on our friendly Farragut at this point, who's harassing them with high explosive. Good job on our Farragut. In the meantime, the Phoenix turns full broadside to us, and we're going to finish them off at this point, picking up our first kill. Now what this does, once the enemy cruisers are gone, is, in my mind, it makes me think, right, my destroyers are now free to do what they want. Because they don't have a cruiser that can act as an interception line between them and that Iron Duke. In return, I can expect my destroyers, if they go forward and lead the way, or just put themselves say 3 kilometers in front of me, to spot any torpedoes that can come from the enemy destroyers. Particularly that Shinonome is my concern. One of its very powerful, if I remember correctly, 10-kilometer torpedoes, that Tier 6 Japanese reward ship from one of the campaigns. And I don't really want to get hit by torpedoes this early on if I can afford it. Now I do have a lot of health, I do have 56,300 HP, but I want to hold some of that in reserve, just in case I do need to go brawling or I do really need to get in the thick of it towards the end of the match. As having some health available always helps, but at the same time I shouldn't expect to conserve every bit of health I've got. I'm a battleship at the end of the day, not a cruiser or a destroyer. But going forward, we can see that the enemy Shinonome is going to a smoke screen once again because they've been spotted by our friendly Minsk, and we're going to push forward and actually catch this Ryujo as they seem to be out of position, and we'll support our team in bringing it down as quickly as possible. Because once that carrier is gone, that opens up the way for our friendly Independence, the Tier 6 American carrier down in the southwestern corner of the map. They can put their planes in the sky without hindrance other than enemy ship AA, from the likes of the Atlanta in particular. So we'll throw some armor piercing towards the enemy carrier. We're hoping for some citadels, but we seem to be getting it all wrong here. Perhaps we're not aiming towards the right section of the ship, so we're just going to pick up a load of over penetrations over time instead. In the meantime, noting the positioning of the enemy Shinonome and the enemy Gnevny, the 2 destroyers up here, we need to make sure we don't get clipped by torpedoes. So we throw our second salvo towards the Ryujo and pick up a load of over penetrations, i.e. 7 of them. It's a good amount of damage. Now I'm going to apologise for what I accidentally do very shortly, which is I actually break one of the guns temporarily on our friendly Gator, who's grinding on our aft right now. It's a little bit unfortunate, we both make the mistake of grinding alongside each other, but it happens. And in the meantime, our salvo going away towards the enemy Gnevny, we're going to push them off a little bit, as I get told off by my captain for friendly fire. We did pick up 8 penetration on that Gnevny, so their health is now down to 2,500, so they're going to be a little bit more hesitant to get too close to our ships. And we're looking into the middle at this point to note the enemy Marblehead. Now, unfortunately we're going to miss because we didn't use the torpedo indicator to tell us they were starting to go forward, but what's more important here is what I'm doing in terms of my ship's position. Now at this point I could make the mistake of angling after the Iron Duke and pursuing it. But what I'm doing, I'm actually trying to convince the enemy team I'm pursuing the Iron Duke. And you can see on the minimap it looks like it because the way I'm angled. I'm holding that angle to make sure their armour piercing cannot get through my armour if they engage the broadside, because it's angled. At the same time, I've got my guns pointed towards the middle of the map because I'm more interested in what's going on in the centre and being able to rectify the balance for my team, as we seem to have the ship advantage, rather than pursuing one crippled battleship and a crippled destroyer into their spawn. Now here I'm turning back towards the Iron Duke to keep up this charade, which is I want to get a little bit closer to Iron Duke, use my speed because I can outrun them, in order to bring my secondaries with a 7.6 kilometer range to bear. And we are picking up the occasional secondary hit here, which reinforces this. But once we've got towards them and we've gone into our ally Smoke, the destroyer who's now taken out, we are actually going to turn back towards the middle of the map once again. It's just to make the enemy team think I'm doing one of 2 things. I seem to be more engrossed in pursuing this Iron Duke, but in return, what I'm actually thinking to myself is no, I'm more interested in looking at the middle, as we clip 2 high explosive penetrations there. And now we begin the re-angling. And at the same time, by going into this smoke screen, I give off the false impression that I'm trying to potentially stealth fire. But I know I can't because when firing in smoke, I have a detectability of 11.7 kilometers. And straight away, this Atlanta seems to be more mindful, the enemy Atlanta seems to be more mindful of our team over in the west, rather than our positioning up in the north. And whilst our initial salvo only picks up a couple of over penetrations, hopefully our second salvo is going to do a lot more damage, as they seem to be in full reverse now. The Iron Duke in return has been eliminated, and it means we can now fully angle down towards objective Bravo, because we don't have the risk of being hit on broadside. And lining up our second salvo accordingly on this Atlanta, they seem to still be in full reverse. Double checking on the lead indicator for our third salvo, we pick up a very nice 11,000 damage salvo, cutting their health down to half now. In the meantime, we look towards the enemy Scharnhorst, noticing that it's actually coming about. It seems to be retreating a little bit eastwards. We're not too concerned. We're more concerned about the Shinonome, however, who's appeared very briefly. Now, they've probably sent torpedoes our way, and note again how we've got this rough angle towards them as we pick up a second citadel on that Atlanta, really ruining their game chances. And the Shinonome has most likely fired torpedoes. We want to do as much damage to them as possible. I expect that I'm going to take 1 or 2 torpedoes at this point because I haven't bothered turning my ship fully towards them, going bow on. But I'm only going to take 2, and I can afford to do this. It means I do lose a bit of health, but I can use my heal to get me back up above half health. so I'm happy to sacrifice a little bit, and it also means Adrenaline Rush comes into play, that tier 2 captain skill. Secondaries are opening fire on both sides of the ship now, and lumber them aim towards the Gnevny up on the northeastern corner. Let's get the Shinonome out of the way first. A penetration plus some over penetrations, they're out of the match, they're no longer a threat. And we can turn our guns very quickly towards the Scharnhorst, who seems to be coming around on the eastern side, and also this Gnevny up in the northeastern corner. Noting that our guns turn very quickly, and I'm fully aware of that, with their 25 seconds to turn 180 degrees. And we're in a prime position here whereby we have control of a corner, which means we can bring our guns to bear on the Gnevny and be ready for the incoming Scharnhorst. So I'm positioning myself to have the greatest impact on where the enemy team can come from. I cut off avenues as that Gnevny leaves the match, picking up our Confederate, and we're in the position ready to take on the Scharnhorst with our torpedoes ready to make them turn in even more. And in effect, if they do try to turn towards us, it's only going to bring them closer and closer, and we can really make our guns come to work. We open fire with the torpedoes here. Unfortunately, we put them a little bit too close to the landmass, meaning the rightmost one is going to clip it and give away the fact there's torpedoes in the water. But the Scharnhorst is coming around at full speed, so we'll start reversing and provide an angle using our effective armour once more. I'm also looking at the minimap at this point and noticing that the effort in the middle has come over into our favour, with our Mizuki being able to capture Bravo with ease. We pick up our high caliber there as well, and our secondaries begin to go to work, setting a fire. And just to keep in mind that our secondaries have a fire chance between 7 and 10%. We have two caliber sets, 105s and 150s. And our final salvo here on the Scharnhorst wipes them out, picking up our fourth kill, and it's time for us to push into the middle. Now unfortunately what happens at this point is that our Mizuki decides to pursue the Italian battleship, the Giulio Cesare. And noting the torpedoes coming in, how we were anticipating them by pushing our speed backwards into reverse and then starting to go back forwards. We thought the torpedoes would be on the way as a last ditch attempt. Now no criticism on Mizuki, it's right of them to go in pursuit of the Giulio Cesare and use their torpedoes as much as possible to cause damage, but in return it means that we and our fellow battleships, like the Iron Duke and the Congo, will need to take this objective. It delays us a little bit in getting the win because it means that we don't pick up points as quickly. It keeps the enemy team in the game a little bit longer, but it's not to worry. Going forward, we're using our high explosive here because I know that at this range, getting decent hits on an enemy battleship with armour piercing of such low calibre is going to be very difficult, because typically at tier 7 you're looking at calibres heading towards 16 inches rather than 11 inches, and our armour piercing isn't going to do too well. So some high explosive here to eliminate some anti-aircraft, as we still got our carrier in play, and on top of that to set some fires will do well, if we can get the hits. Opening fire with our second salvo here. Looks as though we're going to get 1 or 2 hits on the target. We get the one, we do some damage, but unfortunately nothing major. Not to worry, we're hoping perhaps our 22% fire chance on our main battery was going to work, but it didn't. And note here how I'm keeping the landmass between myself and the enemy battleship to make sure that I'm not spotted and they can return fire. Because even if my allies do get hit, and as a result the caps get reset, I want to be that ship who makes sure the cap does get eventually taken for our team. So providing that bit of security. That's something to keep in mind as well. The biggest ships, even the ones that are the hardest to conceal, can conceal themselves just by using a little bit of cover. In the meantime, we're re-angling our approach, that way we can cut off this enemy battleship. As they cut across the western side of the map, we're expecting them to come around the landmass in grid square, what would it be? F4, F5. So we're ready to cut off their approach with our torpedoes, which go out to 6 kilometers, but top speed of 64 knots, and also our main batteries, which reload in under 20 seconds now because of Adrenaline Rush. We're all set to go on intercept to this enemy battleship. We are detected. It's the enemy Shiratsuyu, the tier 7 Japanese destroyer, spotting us very briefly before they go behind the landmass, which is always nice. It means that the enemy battleship does not have full time to prepare for our engagement. And we open fire. A very nice cut-in of 11,000 damage to their exposed bow, at which point they start to turn in and we get our torpedoes ready, and we're hoping to come down on what effectively would be our port side, and it would be it'd be their port side as well from the captain's perspective of that ship. We'll go toe to toe at this point using our speed to get nice and close. We throw the torpedoes down to cut off any potential avenues where they could turn towards our friendly Iron Duke, but we'll use our guns to finish them off, picking up our Kraken. Now the only thing left to deal with is the enemy Shiratsuyu, but they're not really a threat, because as you're going to see shortly, our carrier's already got the right idea. I'm just going to ask the carrier politely to come through with that idea as well, which is put the fighters over the enemy destroyer and just keep it spotted for the rest of the game, because it's going to try and take Objective Alpha, but with our friendly fighters spotting it, we can rip it to pieces. Now you're probably wondering why am I holding fire here, because the Shiratsu seems to have come to a standstill. Well, I was expecting that they'd gone to a standstill to juke our battleship's guns, but we held our fire so that way when they picked up their speed, we were ready to prevent them from taking the objective. Landing one hit there, and that's enough to reset the cap. We'll now do it again, using the vision conferred to us by our carrier, who's done a brilliant job here. Compliment to them. Another salvo, another set of hits incoming. 2 more resets there, and really it's just a gradual pursuit now of this enemy destroyer. I'm not expected to take it out, but I just want to make sure it can't take objective Alpha. Just push them out of the game, as on the other side of the map, our friendly Gator is taking objective Charlie and sealing the game for our team. As you have to keep in mind that regardless of whether it's 1 destroyer or 10 of them still alive on the enemy team, every ship is a potential threat to the victory. 2 more resets there, but no actual hits. And with that, the Shiratsu now drifts out of objective Alpha, and that is the game pretty much wrapped up. And we're just going to see that our final salvo, which we open fire with, is not going to hit the target. Unfortunately, that Shiratsu is too nimble and our dispersion too wide, but we're not expecting to hit, we just want to push them away. And in doing so, secure the victory for the team finally. And with that and our angling to prevent any torpedoes that may be incoming from heading our way, but keep in mind we would have seen those torpedoes coming from our friendly fighters providing the vision, let's go take a look at the post-game stats. A close fought but rather lovely game in the end. We can see that our battle performance amounted to 126,255 HP of damage, and on top of that we picked up 3 heroic achievements. Firstly, Confederate for damaging at least 6 enemy ships, whereby the damage caused to each ship must exceed 20% of a normal health pool. We picked up the High Caliber for damaging at least 4 enemy ships, where the damage caused must exceed 30% of the total health pool for all the ships in the enemy team. And we also picked up the one that everybody wants, and that is the Kraken Unleashed, for destroying 5 or more enemy ships in a single battle. Looking at the team scores, we can see that we topped our team in terms of base experience earned, picking up 2,557. Now, some may argue at this point that this was effectively a single-handed carry by our ship, but I would personally disagree and instead confer that this was a carry, but this was still a 12 versus 12 match, not a 1 versus 23. Instead, it was the simple thing of providing a little bit of directionality at the start of the match, which perhaps boosted the confidence of our teammates and in return gave us the confidence to be able to operate effectively. Telling the team that we're going for objective Alpha, and from that point we could push forward with the support of our destroyers in particular. Looking at our detailed report, we have one key item to note here, and that is the number of enemy ships we hit throughout the match. We destroyed 5 but damaged an additional 6, meaning that we hit 11 out of the 12 ships on the enemy team. This goes to show how we were not focused on particular foes throughout the given match, but instead we made sure to bring our firepower to the foe that we felt was the most exposed or the greatest threat at a given point in time. And again, this is something that I personally feel I've learned over the course of the last year in just focusing on improving my battleship play. The concept of being able to free up your aim and not become too focused on one given foe until they're out of the match. We did indeed focus down the enemy cruisers when we made our push towards Alpha, but beyond that point, we decided to free up our aim and try to engage the target's opportunity as soon as they appeared. And if we'd been a little bit more accurate of our opening salvo on the enemy T-22, perhaps we could have actually made it 12 out of 12. And finally, coming on to credits and experience earned, we can see that after additions and deductions, we walked away with 452,183 silver credits and 5,744 commander experience. To conclude, hopefully today we have demonstrated how, in my opinion, the top tier ships in a given match can have a major effect on the match's overall outcome. This is not just in terms of their ability to do damage to the enemy fleet, but more importantly, in terms of the sense of confidence and drive they give to their lower tier teammates. Taking this game as an example, as the top tier battleship on our team in our Scharnhorst, we told our teammates straight away that our game plan was to go to Alpha and take it. In doing so, perhaps we buoyed our team to push a little bit further towards Alpha, or alternatively gave our teammates the confidence to enact their strategies. Whether it was the destroyers that supported us on Alpha or our teammates who had more of a holding or a defensive line towards objectives Bravo and Charlie. Just by mentioning what we intend to do and by seeming to have an idea of what we intend to do means that perhaps we conferred to some of our teammates a sense of direction. And so I've been TX141, and if you have enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future World of Warships videos on my channel. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and fair seas.